Hello my sweet angel besties, welcome back. Here's the situation. This is my TBR for November. How many do you think I've read? 1. So I have this pile of books to read by the end of the month, and I would really like to read all of them by the end of the month because there is just something so satisfying about finishing your monthly TBR. And so in this video, my plan is to try and read all of these, hopefully. I don't know if I'm asking for too much, but I guess we'll wait and see. Here are the books that we are working with. Like I said, I've finished one book, which is Rach by Lynette Noni, a little YA fantasy moment. And then as for the other books we have to read, we have The Obsession, which is a YA thriller. I'm pretty sure it's like a stalker thriller, so that sounds really fascinating. We also have Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. This is the first book in a brand new fantasy series, and I am really excited to read this because I've heard incredible things. I don't really know what the actual like storyline is, what the plot is, but a lot of my friends really like this series, so I'm looking forward to picking this up. We have a cute little rom-com by Sarah Adams, who is also the author of The Cheat Sheet and When in Rome and those other books. But this is called The Match, and I think this is a single dad romance, and I love single parent romances. Then we have a reread. This is Happy Place by Emily Henry. I've already read this and loved it. It's one of my favorite books of all time, but one of the prompts that I got from my TBR jar for November was a reread, so I chose this. I am really hoping to get to this because obviously I adore this book, but it's not as high priority because I'd rather read the books that I haven't read before, if that makes sense. If I can get to this, that would be fantastic, but if I don't, I'm not going to be that upset about it. And lastly, we have Enchanted to Meet You. I'm pretty sure this is a little like witchy rom-com, and I read 2 little witchy rom-coms last month and really enjoyed them, so I'm hoping that I really enjoy this one too. But these are the books that we're going to try and get to by the end of the month, but I'll keep you updated with how I go. It is a very gloomy and rainy Saturday here in Brisbane today. It's basically been raining all day, which is not ideal, but it does make for great reading weather. Last night I decided to pick up a new book, and I decided to pick up The Obsession, which I'm pretty sure is a YA thriller, and I honestly do not read a lot of thrillers. I much prefer mysteries over thrillers. I think I'm just very easily spooked and they kind of creep me out too much. But this has been on my TBR cart for a long time, and I honestly think it'll be a really quick read. I started it last night, or like more so like yesterday afternoon, and I got 100 pages in, and I'm pretty sure this is about 300 pages, so I guess I am a third of the way through. And I think this is a stalker story. On the front it says boy meets girl, boy stalks girl, girl gets revenge. I'm at chapter 8, and a very brief summary is, from what I've gathered, it's a bit like vague. I feel like it's one of those things that we find out more information about the backstory as it progresses. But it sounds like Logan used to be obsessed with this girl called Sophie, and now Sophie is gone. But yeah, he was in love with her, obsessed with her. He makes it sound like she was obsessed with him too. I don't know, because we don't meet Sophie, we don't know like her POV, her thinking, but he was just like obsessed with her, and then she's gone. And he apparently took some time off school, and now he's come back to school, and on his first day back he bumps into this girl called Delilah who is new to the school, and he is just like, oh my gosh, she looks kind of similar to Sophie, and he just like clicks, and his brain is suddenly like obsessed with Delilah, and so he kind of just starts stalking Delilah. And then obviously we're reading from Delilah's POV as well, and she's just kind of talking about her life really, and just like what's going on in her life. So that is a very brief synopsis of like where the story starts and kind of what's going on. I have a theory. I could be so wrong, but I do have a theory about like literally as soon as I started the book, like a few pages in, I was like, I have a theory about this. So we'll see if I'm right by the end. I could be so wrong. It's already a little bit icky and creepy and yucky, but obviously that makes sense for a stalker story. Like it's not nice to read about, you know? It's definitely not a bad book at all. Like it's very easy to read, very quick, but it is kind of reinforcing the fact that I don't think I love thrillers, because they just make me feel so uncomfy, and I don't like feeling that way. So I'm gonna keep reading this. I feel like I'll honestly get through it pretty fast because it's just such like a bingeable read. So maybe if you're looking for a bingeable read, I would recommend this, but we'll see. I don't really have very strong feelings either way about this currently. Like I don't hate it, I don't love it. It's just kind of like there, but I'm intrigued to see what's gonna happen, definitely. I honestly can't think of that many things that are better than sitting on your couch binging a book on a rainy Saturday. Like I'm just having the best time. I am now at page 217. So I am flying through this book. It is just such a bingeable read. Like truly so bingeable. Is it actually good? it's okay. Like, I'm enjoying it enough that I'm wanting to keep reading it, and I genuinely really do want to know what's gonna happen, because right now I'm like, what is going on? And like, where is this gonna go? And how is this gonna end? I don't feel like I've read a thriller in forever. So I'm like, did they have happy endings or do they not? Like, I don't know. So I'm fascinated. I kind of just want to sit here and finish the rest of it now, if possible. I mean, I have like 80-ish, 85 pages left. Also, the font is huge in this book, so that is a huge reason why it's going by so quickly, I think. But I think I'm just gonna keep reading until I'm sick of it. Whether that's in 10 pages or 80, I guess we'll see. I just finished my book. I thought we could chat about it. I'm making myself a peppermint tea because gloomy weather calls for tea. Also, Christmas mugs. I pulled out my Christmas mugs like 2 days ago, and they have been the highlight of my day for the past 2 days. This is a little reindeer one from Kmart. This one is a few years old, but it's so cute. Okay, so The Obsession. I liked it. It was good. It was very bingeable. It's just over 300 pages. The font is really big, so it's a very quick read. I also just feel like it was a quick read in the sense of like, it was very fast paced. There was always something going on. I do feel like it could have been better, but I also want to preface this by saying I don't read a lot of thrillers, so I don't know if I'm the best judge of thrillers. Like, I don't have a lot to compare it to. I don't even remember the last time I read a thriller, let alone a YA thriller. I love mysteries. I'm just not as big on the thriller kind of vibe, because I love the like figuring out the answer to something or figuring out a mystery or solving something, but the whole like creepy vibe, it's just unsettling to me, a little bit uncomfortable, and that's not really what I'm looking for when I read. This book has been on my TBR. I don't know if it's been quite a year, but it's definitely been on it for a long time, and I feel like thrillers stay on my TBR cart for such a long time because I just don't really read them. But anyway, I'm glad I read it, and it was fun, and it definitely kept me interested the whole time. I just wish there was a little bit more to it. I also feel like the end was just a little bit unsatisfying to me. It was just kind of like boom, boom, the end. Like, two big things happened, and then it was just like the end, and I was just like, it didn't really feel complete to me. It kind of felt like we needed to see what followed those two bigger events, maybe like a couple weeks after or a couple months after, to know what happened. And maybe that's the point. Like, maybe the author wants you to kind of be like, oh, but what happened after that? Or did the person get caught or did they not get caught? That kind of vibe. Like, maybe it's supposed to be a little bit unsatisfying because it makes you think about it more, but I find it just kind of annoying. Like, I just want to know if the bad person gets caught. Are there consequences for the actions? I feel like maybe not, maybe. I guess we don't know. I don't know, that's just kind of annoying to me, not knowing. But like I said, if you're just like in the mood for a really bingeable, quick, fast-paced YA thriller, it's probably a good one. I also just wish we'd gotten a little bit more in terms of like everything. Like, everything was just a little bit too surface level for me. Even just like, we kind of knew that the guy in the story didn't have a great relationship with his parents, but that was never explained, or we never like went into it, apart from just being like, you could tell that they didn't get along super well. Or there were things that were kind of hinted at but never really elaborated on, and I was just like, I need a little bit more than this. So I think overall I'm gonna give it like 3 stars because it was good. I enjoyed it. I definitely wanted to finish it and find out what was going to happen, but it's just like not something that I think I'll be raving about or like recommending to everyone. But yeah, still good. Anyway, I'm going to sit and enjoy my tea. I don't know what I'm going to read next. Maybe we need like a fluffy romance or something after that. I don't know. I'll catch up with you guys when I've chosen my next book. Moving on to my second book of the video, I'm gonna start The Match by Sarah Adams. I love the cover of this. It just looks so happy and so fun. And typically Sarah Adams books are just like the cheesiest, happiest little cutesy, patootsy rom-com. And I have to be in the mood for them, but when I am in the mood for them, they hit. I think this one was published a little bit ago, but it just got republished sometime this year and re-released. And so far from Sarah Adams, I've read The Cheat Sheet and The Rule Book. And then I've also read When in Rome and Practice Makes Perfect. And I love When in Rome and Practice Makes Perfect. Like, that's my favorite little series that she's done. But I also still enjoyed The Cheat Sheet and The Rule Book. They just weren't as like top tier to me as When in Rome. When in Rome, that book specifically is my like complete favorite. That was a 5-star read for me. I was obsessed with it. But I'm excited to read a little bit more of her backlist. So I think this book is about a woman who works for like a service dog or service animal company. It says on the back that she has
epilepsy, and so she has her own service dog, Charlie, and I think that dog, like her getting her service dog, kind of inspired her to get more involved with this service animal company. And it looks like the love interest is a guy who has a daughter with epilepsy who is also looking into getting a service dog. So it sounds like a very wholesome, sweet story. I'm excited to read more about it. Also, we have a single parent trope, which I really love. So I'm just excited. It sounds really fun. And this one is a really short little one too. It is 288 pages. So that's just so fun. It's really nice to pick up like a quick little rom-com every now and then that just doesn't require a whole lot of brain power. It's just a very fun, easy read, you know? So I'm gonna start this, and I guess I'll give you an update when I have a bit more to say. I am really in the Christmas mood today. Look at my mug. If this isn't the most me mug you've ever seen, you're literally lying. Gnomes and books. Perfect. And I'm also working on a Christmas puzzle. This is the one I'm working on. How cute. I am not very far through it at all. I have done most of the like title kind of area because that's kind of easy, and then I've done most of the edges. I've just got to find like a couple more pieces. But this is just such a fun little cozy activity, and the Christmas tree is up, the Christmas lights are on. Couldn't get much better than this. But anyway, reading update. I have decided to listen to this book as an audiobook. I'm just like struggling to get through it a bit. I don't know why, because I really like the premise. I like the characters, like I don't dislike them at all. I really love like the single dad element to the story. Like he is just such a sweet dad and the kid is so cute. And I also love the whole like service dog element to it. I feel like that part of the book, like the service dog kind of situation, really sets up the book well, because she works for a service dog company and her job is to help people get matched with the right service dog and like train them and things like that, and then help them get used to having that service dog. And then she obviously meets this single dad with his daughter who needs a service dog. So it is such a perfect setup, so wholesome, so fun. It's also set in Charleston, which is really fun. I don't know a lot about Charleston apart from following a few YouTubers and TikTokers and stuff that live there, but they all make it look really magical. So I feel like I'm imagining the setting as just really magical and fun. So those are all like really good things, but I hate to say it, don't feel that connected to the story or the characters. I don't know why. I don't even know like what I would do to like make the story better necessarily. Like I can't even be like, oh, I think it needs this or I think it needs that. I don't know. It's good. I'm enjoying it, but I'm definitely not like sucked into it or attached to it. And there's just been like no moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, can't wait to pick up that book. It's just a bit like, oh yeah, I should probably continue reading that book. So definitely not bad. It's just not amazing. So I think I've decided to listen to it as an audiobook, at least for like part of it, because sometimes if I feel like that, an audiobook is a really great way to experience the book. And now that I have such a cozy activity to do, it's just the perfect combo: puzzle and audiobook and coffee. I think that's what I'm gonna do, and I'll give you guys an update later. I think I'm at about 35% of the way through, so not even halfway yet, and it's taken me like days to get to that point, which is so silly because it's such a short book. But again, I just haven't been that invested, but hopefully my thoughts and feelings will change. We'll see. Moved on to the next cozy hobby of the day, but still continuing my audiobook listening, and I've got to say, I'm enjoying it more than I was before. Like I said, I was still having a good time before, but I was just a bit like, oh yeah, like it's okay. And now I'm like giggling, kicking my feet a little bit, like I'm a lot more invested. I wouldn't say it's like a 5-star read, but it is just like a cute little time, isn't it? Like Sarah Adams just knows how to write a cute, silly little rom-com. I mean, it does have a bit of depth to it too, especially when it comes to our main character dealing with seizures and also the love interest daughter dealing with seizures. And there's so many discussions around that and like so many things that I just had no idea about as someone who has never had to learn about those things before. I don't really know anyone who has dealt with seizures, and I myself haven't experienced it. And I love that books can actually be so, like novels can be so educational about these types of things. Like so many things where I'm like, oh, well, how do people with seizures like live independently without kind of worrying that they may need help, or, you know, like lots of things that are discussed in this book that I'm like, wow, that is actually really interesting and insightful, and just something I probably wouldn't have known about unless I had someone in my life that dealt with it. So I found that aspect also just super, super interesting. But as for the romance itself, it is just very cute. Like, you can just tell that the main characters are so like smitten with each other, which is just fun. Like, I just love it when main characters are just so obsessed with each other, and you can just tell. And it's dual POV, and you can tell that they're both trying to kind of play it cool a bit and kind of be like, oh, I'm not that obsessed, but like they definitely are. So it's just really sweet. It's really cute. I think I'm about 70% of the way through now, so I feel like it probably at the 50% mark is where I got more invested, and ever since then I've been like really enjoying it. But I think I'm honestly just gonna sit here, continue crocheting, and continue listening. And the next time I talk to you honestly might be when I finish it. Last night I finished The Match by Sarah Adams, and so we are officially done with another book from the TBR, which feels good. I will say I didn't love the third act like conflict that was in this book. It just felt unnecessary, predictable, and just like a classic, oh, we've just got to shove a conflict in here. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just didn't feel necessary at all. But it's a classic rom-com. Like, it's to be expected. I think I'm gonna give it 3.75 stars overall. It honestly was pretty fun. Not like my favorite book ever, but a cute little rom-com, you know, like no major complaints. And it has some really, really cute elements and some really, really cute scenes. I just thought the premise and like the setup was such a cute and unique story that I just haven't seen a million times before, which I appreciated. And I definitely think it was one of those books where I liked it the more it went on. So those are my thoughts on The Match. And I've decided to pick up Spark of the Everflame. I have the physical copy of this, but I've decided to read it on my Kindle because it's on Kindle Unlimited. And if it's on Kindle Unlimited, I'm gonna read it on my Kindle. This is the first book in a fantasy series. I don't know a whole lot about it. All I know is that I'm pretty sure it's Enemies to Lovers, Slow Burn. I think there are 3 books out right now, but it's an unfinished series, and I've heard that the books get longer and longer as the series progresses. Like, I think the third book is like 1,000 pages or something. This one is definitely not that long. I think it's around 400 pages, I want to say. I'm excited to start this. I don't really know what to expect. I definitely shouldn't be starting more fantasy series. I should just finish the ones that I'm already in the middle of, but it's on my TBR, so I've got to read it. I am very excited though, because I have a few mutuals that really, really enjoyed this series, so I'm hoping and praying that I will also enjoy it too. Reading update, I just got to 40% of the way through Spark of the Everflame, and I'm really, really enjoying it, like so much. I don't even know what it is about it, but I'm just fascinated. I have so many theories and like guesses as to like secrets and things that haven't been necessarily revealed yet, but definitely have been hinted at, and I so deeply want to know when I'm gonna find out, and then also if I'm going to be right or wrong. Some things I'm like, oh, this feels quite predictable, but I could just be completely wrong. Like, I could be guessing something and it could be completely off, but it's just so fun to be reading and kind of coming up with these ideas, and just like, I have no idea where this series is going to go. And I also just can't imagine, because book 2 and book 3 are such long books, so I'm like, we are really like scratching the surface with this book, and I can't even begin to imagine where it's going to go, but I want to know so badly. But I'm actually shocked at how much I'm enjoying this. I did not think I'd be enjoying it this much. Like, I'm just having so much fun when I'm not reading it. I'm thinking about it and I'm wanting to pick it up, and like thinking about when I have time to pick it up. If you don't know, the basic premise of this book is that we are following our main character, DM, and she lives in a world where there are mortals and descended. And the descended are kind of like the elite, you know, like people with powers, people with magic, and they also just live a lot more lavishly. They seem to be kind of like the wealthy people in this society, and then the mortals are kind of like the peasants, and they're just trying to survive at this point. And DM is a healer. She's a mortal healer, and her mum disappeared 6 months ago. And so DM is kind of trying to just like live her life and be a healer and do all of the normal things. But she's also kind of like in the back of her mind, always thinking about her mum, always wondering where she went, and still kind of trying to figure that out. I feel like the moment we're kind of just following DM as she is just living her life, I think there are a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of things that are yet to be revealed. But it is just fascinating getting getting to see the world, getting to understand the world, getting to know all of the side characters. I don't know if these characters that we're reading about now are going to follow through into the rest of the books or not, but I'm just intrigued. I do have a lot more time today to read, so I'm hoping I'll get through a huge chunk of this today, but I guess we'll wait and see. I think I just passed the 75% mark of this book, so we are well and truly on our way to finishing it, and I am really excited to continue it. I think my main thing now that I really want to see in the last 25% of this book is that I want to get some answers. I feel like this book has been really good at hinting at things, implying things, giving you enough information to be really intrigued and kind of like trying to work things out in your head, but not actually giving you the full answer. We are reading from our main character's point of view, of course, and she just like doesn't know a lot. Like, it just seems like everyone in her life has information that they are not giving her, and I don't know why yet. Obviously, I'm hoping we'll figure that out as we go, but because you're in her head and she doesn't know, you're kind of figuring things out along with her, obviously. But yeah, it just feels like there's so much information that she doesn't know, but like, you know that there's information that you don't know, if that makes sense. And so I am like desperate to figure some things out, and I'm really hoping that the last 25% of this book will give us some answers. I don't need every single explanation ever, but I just need some crumbs. I just need some tiny little crumbs to hold on to, so I feel like I've accomplished something. I don't know if that makes sense. Obviously, this is the first book in a series, so I know we're not going to get all the answers. I'm sure we barely have any information yet compared to what the rest of this series will hold, but I just feel like I need something in the last bit of this book, so I'm hoping I'm gonna get that. I'm unsure, because I feel like it could go one of two ways. One way is we get some information. Obviously not every single thing is going to be revealed, but hopefully we'll get something. And the other way is that we just don't get any answers. We just get a huge cliffhanger, and then I'm just going to want to start book 2 immediately. And I'm hoping it's kind of a bit of both. I'm hoping the two will be like mixed together and we'll get some answers, but enough so that I get like a little bit of satisfaction, but I'm still intrigued about all of the other things. And then we also get a big cliffhanger so that I'm excited to continue the series. That's what like my dream would be. So I guess we'll wait and find out if I get what I want. I'm so confused as to what is going on, but I think our main character is just as confused as me, so I guess that's good. But like, what is going on? I need to highlight that. Oh my gosh. I feel like when you have like a whole book where there's like pretty much no romance, and then they just give you a tiny little crumb right near the end, it just hits. Oh, I eat it up every time. I did get told this was slow burn, and I love a slow burn, so sign me up. I need to highlight that one as well. Oh my gosh. That was a crazy chapter. I'm at 91%. It says I have 40 minutes left in the book, and I can't tell if I'm going to be able to stay up that late because I'm already like so tired. 40 minutes kind of feels like a lot. I don't know if I can make it 40 minutes, but we'll see. I mean, if I don't finish it tonight, I will definitely finish it first thing tomorrow morning. But we just got a big piece of information that I was expecting. It was very predictable, but I'm glad we got confirmation, and also just like such a good scene. I don't know what is going to happen in the rest of this book. I'm so intrigued. Maybe I will stay up. I just finished it. That was crazy. That was so good. And I immediately downloaded the next 2 books because I need to read them. I don't know when I'm gonna get a chance to read them, but I need to, because I need to know what's gonna happen next. Oh my gosh, that was so good. And I'm so confused about the ending, like the epilogue. Obviously I know whose POV we were in, but like, what does it all mean? Oh my gosh. I just want to start the next book, but I shouldn't. It's also way past my bedtime, so I need to go
to sleep.
So last night I finished Spark of the Everflame and it was so good. I literally had so much fun reading that book and I cannot wait to continue the series. I've had a few people tell me now that book 2 is their favorite, and so that makes me just like extra excited to continue the series. I don't know when I'm gonna get to it because I have so many other books that I should probably get to before I get to that one, but we'll see. And I think the next book is like 600 pages and then the book after that is like 1,000 pages, so. But anyway, it is now the next day and I decided to start Enchanted to Meet You. I am 40 pages in, so I'm not that far in. First thing I realized when I started reading this is that this is the author of The Princess Diaries, which I had no idea about. I got this book in like a blind date with a book situation, so before receiving this, I didn't know anything about it. I've never read anything by this author, but yeah, when I started it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the author of The Princess Diaries. At least like the books. Obviously the movies were based on the books. I haven't read the books, I don't know how similar they are, no idea, but I was like, oh, that's just like such a fun little piece of information. This author has also written just like a ton of books, but yeah, I personally have not really heard anything about her or really come across her before. But the premise of this book is there's this woman called Jessica and she basically just like wants to be a witch and wants to have magic, and she gets this like it's a little bit confusing to me. It's like a vintage recipe book, but kind of like a spell book, I guess. And she ends up casting a spell on this boy that she really likes because she wants him to ask her to homecoming. So yeah, when she's like a teenager, she's just like obsessed with becoming a witch and magic and all of those sorts of things. And she casts this spell and apparently it goes wrong. I haven't like really gotten that far into it, but based on like what it says on the back of the book, it says that the spell goes wrong and now we're like in the future where she's an adult and now she has to like go on this mission because now she's the chosen one. I don't know. I am as confused as you are. So far, we have like kind of flashed back and flashed forward between two different timelines. We get to read about her as a teenager and like wanting this boy that she has a crush on to fall in love with her and go to homecoming with her, and her kind of like casting this spell on him, which is a whole thing in itself anyway. And that's like the past timeline, and then we have the present timeline where she's an adult and this man has turned up being like, you are the chosen one and we need your help to right the world. Here's my issue. First of all, it didn't like tell you that it was flashing back and flashing forward between the different chapters. You just had to figure that out. Like there's nothing that says like 10 years ago and then current day or something like that. You just are reading and then you kind of gain the context whilst you're reading the chapter that, oh wait, she's a teenager in this, and oh wait, now she's an adult. Like I just feel like it could have been a lot clearer as to what was present and what was past. Obviously, as soon as you get a few sentences into the chapter, it's usually pretty clear. But I just don't know why it wasn't part of like the title that just says like past and then present or something like that, because it took me so long to figure out that we were reading two different time. Well, not so long, I'm only 40 pages in, but it just took me a few chapters to even understand what was going on. Also, the whole concept of magic in this book is so confusing to me because apparently she's just like a normal girl, but like normal people are just like witches because they can just like cast spells. Like she doesn't, like the whole magic system is not explained well at all to me. I'm still so confused as to how or like what witches even are in this world because it is not explained. I just feel like the world building and the explanations could be done so much better because I am just struggling to make the pieces fit. I don't know if I'm just stupid or if everyone struggles the same way I am, but because the guy who comes to tell her that she is the chosen one, which like, why? Where did that come from? Why is she the chosen one? Yet to be explained, but he is from the World Council of Witches. And again, who are the witches? How do you become a witch? Like, why are some people just witches and some people not? And like, I'm so confused because I feel like in other witchy books that I've read, it's very clear that like you are just like born as a witch and sometimes you live in like a completely witchy world, or sometimes you live in the human world but you're a witch, but it's like very clear as to like how you became a witch or why you're a witch. Like it's easy to tell who's a witch and who's not, but this, I literally cannot tell you who's a witch and who's not. So obviously, as you can tell, I was getting kind of frustrated with this book and I've barely scratched the surface of what this book is. I'm like 10% of the way through. And so I looked it up on Goodreads just to see if like what I was thinking is a common thought process or not. And the average rating for this book is not great. It's 3.3, which like I would say anything under like a 3.7 is a bit not ideal. I would say it's a really good sign when the average rating is over a 4, but like obviously there are definitely books that I've rated really highly that have had a lower Goodreads rating, but I feel like 3.3 is like not ideal. So I don't know. I think my plan is I'm gonna give this book 100 pages. And if I'm still a little bit like confused and I'm just like not into it, I'm just gonna DNF it because maybe it's just like not for me. Also, like the humor in this book so far is so like not me. I don't know if it's just like the mood I'm in or what, but it just feels like cringy and it's just like not hitting. There's just been a few things where I'm like, it's just not funny, and I know that it's supposed to, well, they're trying to be funny. Again, I'm not sure if I'm just like not in the mood for a rom-com, but like this is, I need to read this for my TBR, so I don't know. I'm gonna give it 100 pages and we're gonna see how he feels. So I'm gonna continue this now. I'm hoping my mind changes because I would really love to really enjoy this, but I will keep you guys updated. I ended up getting up to page 94 and I think I'm done. I don't think it's a bad book. I'm not interested. I'm not attached. I have no desire to continue. I just don't think it's hitting for me. I will say some of my critiques before have been resolved. We have a few more explanations about a few more things, but I will still say not the clearest world building and magic system I've ever read about. And I think if you just feel like dumb reading a book, it can really inhibit your reading experience. And if you just feel confused and just like, what is going on, I think it can be hard to enjoy something. So I think I did probably get off on the wrong foot of this book. I feel like the difference between this and Spark of the Everflame in terms of like having information and like understanding the world building and stuff is in Spark of the Everflame, you know that you don't have all the information and you know that the main character is confused and doesn't really know what's going on, and even though other people have information that you don't have as the main character, you know you're going to get it when you're supposed to get it. And so even though you're a little bit confused, you know that it will be explained when it's the right time. So it's not frustrating. Whereas in this book, it felt like I should understand what was going on. It felt like the characters knew what was going on, but you as a reader just didn't. And that was frustrating because they were kind of explaining things at random times when I felt like it could have just been explained at the beginning. Like they ended up explaining the difference between a true witch and a not true witch. And I'm like, this could have been explained in the first 2 or 3 chapters. Why did we have to find out about it like 50 or 60 pages into the book? Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I'm gonna move on from this. I'm done with it. And we are gonna move on to the last book on my TBR, which is a reread of Happy Place by Emily Henry. I was considering annotating this. I don't know if I will. This is one of those books that I feel like I'm gonna reread many times in the future, so I'm sure I will annotate it at some point, but for now I think I just wanna sit back and enjoy one of my favorite books of all time. I'm so excited about this. Started my reread of Happy Place last night and I'm already 40% of the way through this book. Like it is flying by and I'm just as obsessed as I was the first time. I love this book so much. I would go so far as to say that this may be a perfect book to me. I cannot even explain how I feel about this book, but it just has... It's just incredible. It's the absolute best. I feel like when you reread a 5-star book, or in this case, this is like a 6-star book to me. This is one of the best books I've ever read in my life. But I feel like sometimes when you read a book that you loved so much the first time, there's this part of you that kind of goes, what if I don't love it as much the second time? Like, what if it was just like a time and place situation? Because I do think that happens. There are some books that I've rated 5 stars, and I do think it is a time and place book. And what I mean by that is just that I read it at the right time, at the right place, and it just hit for me in that moment. I don't know whether it was my mindset, whether it was the mood I was in, whether it was the time of life that I was in, I don't know. But sometimes books hit and you can't really explain why, and you just like know that maybe they're not a perfect book, but they were just perfect for that moment. So I'm very aware that that can be how some books are, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I think that's amazing when that happens, when you know it's maybe not a 5-star book, but it is for you in that moment. I don't know. I think that's really special. But then there are other books that you read and you're like, there is no world in which I wouldn't rate this book 5 stars. Like, this book speaks to my soul, and this is one of those books. So it feels very good to be back. I just love this world and these characters so much, and I think the way that Emily Henry has written this book is just perfect to me. I ended up finishing my reread of Happy Place, and I'm so sad that this is over. I already want to go back and reread it again. I wouldn't be surprised if I end up rereading it again soon, especially because I didn't annotate it. I did underline a few things as I was reading if I had like a pen or a pencil nearby, but I would love to eventually go back and like fully invest the time into really like writing my thoughts out, because I just have so many thoughts on this book. It is just so much more than a cutesy little rom-com to me. It is so layered, it has so much depth, and it's one of those books that I genuinely get like mad when people critique this and say they don't like it, because I'm like, no, you just don't get it. Like, you just don't get the depth, you don't get the importance of this book, which I know like that is not actually how it works. Like, everyone is allowed to have their own opinion, people are allowed to dislike your favorite books, people are allowed to like books that you don't like, and honestly most of the time when people critique books that I love, I can be like, yeah, I can see where you're coming from, or like, yeah, I understand what you mean. But this is just one of those books that I just can't hear any criticism on, because it is just it is so good. I didn't cry this time when I read it. I cried so much when I read it for the first time. I think because I relate to Harriet so much on so many levels in so many different areas of her life. And so seeing someone just write a character that so deeply reflects you and you just like see so much of yourself in it, especially when you aren't expecting to feel that way, is really like confronting. And I just felt so emotional about it the first time I read it, whereas obviously the second time I read it, I knew what was coming, so it wasn't as like confronting, I guess, but it still pulled at my heartstrings so much. And one thing I do think is interesting about this book is I do not like miscommunication. I know most people don't like miscommunication when it comes to romance books, but I really truly believe that in this book, miscommunication makes sense, and I will die on that hill. Anyone who says I don't like this book because of the miscommunication, I just want to sit down and have like an hour-long conversation with them, because it makes sense in this book. It makes sense for these characters. If you look at who these characters are and you look at their deepest insecurities and their biggest fears, the fact that they don't communicate well makes sense because of these deep rooted fears. Whereas in a lot of other books, when I read miscommunication, I'm like, that came out of nowhere, or that doesn't make any sense, or like they've communicated so well until this point. But in this book, I really feel like it makes sense, and it should be a miscommunication trope because that just makes sense for these characters. I also think this book is so interesting because obviously it is kind of marketed as this like rom-com, this happy little rom-com. It's called Happy Place, but it has the deepest melancholic energy surrounding it for like 99% of the book. There are definitely happy moments, but even during those happy moments, there's this melancholy just lingering around these characters because they kind of know that their happiness is coming to an end, or certain things are coming to an end, certain seasons, certain relationships, whatever it may be. They just have this like dread just kind of lingering over them throughout most of this book, which is so fascinating to me because I've never experienced a book where it's like this energy just dwells over the characters for the whole book. It creates such like a certain atmosphere to it. It is absolutely fascinating to me. Anyway, I'm gonna start talking about this book because I've been talking for too long, and like I said, I could probably write an essay on this, but I love this book. I loved rereading it. 5 stars from me, of course. We have made it to the end of this video, and honestly, it was pretty successful. These are the 6 books that were on my monthly TBR for the month of November, and like I said at the beginning, I had already read Rayleigh, so technically we were only working with 5 books in this video. I finished The Obsession. I liked this but didn't love it. I just don't think I'm a huge thriller girly, so I don't know if it's really like the book's fault or if it's more so just me reading books that aren't as much my taste. But I gave this 3 stars. It was good, and it was just like a fast-paced, quick read. I also read The Match, and this started off kind of weak, but I feel like I liked it more as the book progressed. I think I said I was going to give it 3.75 in the vlog, but I think it's more of a 3.5 now that I've reflected on that a bit. I think it's good, and I would recommend it to other people. I think it's a really like wholesome setup and really sweet story, but it's just not one that I think I'm gonna really think about moving forward. Then we read Spark of the Everflame. This was fantastic. This was amazing. I loved my read of this. It just feels like it's been a long time since I read a fantasy book that made me feel like this, in terms of just like giggling and kicking my feet and just kind of hypothesizing about what is going to come next. I just had such a fantastic time. Like, I genuinely cannot wait to continue the series, even though I don't know when I'm going to get to it. Like, I genuinely can't wait. I gave this one 4.25 because it didn't give me like a 5-star feeling, but I could see other books in this series being 5 stars for sure. But yeah, I loved this book, and I definitely recommend it. It's probably my favorite that I read in this video, apart from my reread, of course, but it was absolutely fantastic. Probably one of the best
best books I've read this month in general. Then of course we had Enchanted to Meet You. I did DNF this. It just wasn't for me. I don't think it's like an awful book, but I just think if you're reading a book and you're not enjoying it, you're not having fun, why keep reading it when you could be reading books that you will have fun with and that you do really enjoy? So I could see other people really enjoying this, really liking it. Maybe I'll pick it up again one day in the future. I'm not saying that I'll like never touch this book again, but I don't know, it just didn't hit for me, and that's okay. And lastly, we did my reread of Happy Place, which I just yapped about for so long, so I don't need to continue yapping about it now, but I loved this. I can't wait to reread it again in the future. I just think this is amazing, and this just confirmed the fact that this is definitely one of my favorite books of all time. So I guess we did technically complete the monthly TBR, even though one of them was a DNF, but it's still completed in my eyes, so that feels very satisfying, and I had so much fun filming this video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. Maybe it will encourage you guys to read a book on your monthly TBR. Obviously, monthly TBRs don't have to be completed. I just think they're fun to make, but it is really satisfying when you do complete them, so this was a fun little video to do. If you guys want to see more of these videos in the future, please let me know, and I guess I'll see you guys in my next video very soon. Goodbye.